I hate to part ways, but you no longer work for me. So say goodbye. You said your goodbye? Okay. Because you're going over here with me. Right here. And you too. Don't worry guys, you'll get recycled for something else useful. The suspension, the strut is being held by one, and then there's another in the back. Probably can't see it. I think they're 14 millimeters. So I gotta do it on both sides. So to drop this, I gotta take out the upper control arm. I gotta take this out, take this bolt out, and then I gotta take this guy out. They look like they're 17 millimeters. But before I do that, I gotta take the bracket that holds the speed sensor line off. So we're gonna do that on both sides. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, there are two more bolts there I gotta take off. This one and that one. That holds the upper control arm. Normally I wouldn't have to take these off, but since these coilovers is a little bit shorter, so the car is going to be lower a tiny bit, so I need to adjust the camber angle. And the stock RSX does not come with a camber kit, so I did purchase a camber kit, so I got to take these off and replace this whole arm, and then I can adjust it. You'll see. All right, just an update on the left and right, they're loose. I also loosen up these two bolts. This is also loose. The bottom, that's also loose, but I ran into a little small issue, so I'll explain. This is the right side, so let me go to the left side. The bolt, it just wouldn't budge. I just sprayed some PB Blaster. I used it by hand, an impact wrench. It just won't budge. So I'm gonna let this sit for now until next time. So I'm not gonna rush it, because the last thing I want to do is strip that thing. So I don't know. Maybe we'll need some heat treatment or something. We'll figure something out. We'll get this thing loose.
3 days later.
I had to go get myself a blowtorch, heat up the bolt, and gave it a bunch of wax, and it finally came loose. So it's just one of those things that sometimes you have to go to extreme measures to get stuff off. As you can see, the right strut has a bunch of grease and oil, looks like. So the hydraulic fluid has leaked out, so that's why I was making that funny noise. I'm gonna proceed and try to clean up some of the rust here. Not a whole lot at all. On the right is the stock upper control arm that came out of the car. The left is the adjustable camber kit. So the stock one is fixed length, so you cannot shorten it or make it longer. On the left here, you can adjust. There are 1 and 2 locking nuts here. So the way it works is you would spin this middle piece. You can make it longer or shorter, and once you have it that you like, and you would lock them. This is from SPC Performance, and this is the part number for Civic and RSX. So the way it works is, I'm gonna loosen this real quick and demonstrate. Now it's flush up here. I'm gonna spin this, and you'll see this becomes longer. So I'm gonna keep spinning. So the top is not moving, and the bottom is getting longer already. You guys are smart, you know what I'm talking about. These two nuts are, because the stock one has a nut here, it's welded on there. This one does not, so this is a 17 millimeter. So you put it on here, and this little small one is for the speed sensor. line that would be mounted on this bracket here. What I'm doing now is spray some of this called rust dissolver. There's not much back here, but you spray it on here. It's gel type. You let it soak for about 15-30 minutes. You spray it down, wipe it off. After I have cleaned off all the rust dissolver stuff with the hose and let it dry for a day, I came in here. So there was some very minor rust in here, so I cleaned it and I sprayed it just now. This is the second coat, and by tomorrow it should be dry and we can put the new struts in. Red is kind of easier to see where I have sprayed it versus not sprayed, so, and nobody's gonna see this anyway, so I don't really care. This is for protective purposes. I did spray also this area with the red protective paint, but I also, after that has dried out, I also sprayed it a coat of dark gray so it doesn't look all red back here. It's just kind of ridiculous. So so it looks kind of subtle this way. Okay, so I think the plan of attack is I'm gonna put the upper control arm in first because they go to this little hole here and this one. I think I want to put that in first before I put the strut in, because if I put the strut in first, it's kind of be in the way to torque these things down. So I think I'm gonna put the upper control arm first. I did get new bolts, and I'll put the part number in the description below. So I didn't want to use the old ones anymore, so might as well. They had like a couple dollars. It's worth it. And they are 17 millimeters, and the manual calls for 43 foot-pound torque. All right, so that's in the two bolts that holds the upper control arm to the chassis. Those are in and torqued down. So now is this guy's turn, and it's gonna get bolted to here. And here's my new bolt, and I'll put the part number in the description below as well. In order to bring this up to meet this guy, I mean, this can push down a little bit. I'm sure you guys know about this trick. So I put the a jack to the knuckle, and just get a jack, kind of jack it up a little bit. It'll come up, so it gets up to a point where you can kind of line them up and put the bolt in. This is bolted to torque down. This is the left side, so I'm going to go over to the right side. And that's bolted also. Bolted down, torqued down also. Alright, just by eye looking, of course it's not going to be accurate. Looks like there's some negative camber angle. I don't know until I put the strut in and then measure it again. And on the right side, that looks like negative as well, so it looks off. So that's okay. If it's too much negative, I'll just spin this and I can just lengthen this and get more back to the positive side. And if it's too much positive side, I just spin this way, shorten it, vice versa. So simple stuff. All right, I got the rear coilovers on the table and I took them out of the box, and I noticed there's a label here. This white label basically says these are zero preloaded, don't touch them, so I'm not going to touch them. What that basically means is zero preloaded means that the spring here has no movement and it's tight, but it's not super being compressed. So if you notice, there are 3 rings here, the 2 small ones and the 1 big one. The big one is to turn this lower perch up against the spring so it has no movement at all. What most people do is turn this up until they cannot turn it anymore by hand, and then they would use the spanner wrenches that were provided and turn it about 3-4 more times to make sure that it has no movement at all. This one controls your spring rate. The bottom part controls your ride height. I'm not going to touch them right now out of the box. And you know, some people like to count rings. I'm not going to count the rings here. That would just drive me crazy. So I just use a digital caliper that tells me that they match. So these are just starting point. So once I put them on, I'm gonna make more adjustments on the ride height especially. So let me put the camera down and I'm gonna go ahead and put them on. Okay, so the left coilover is on. They're tightened down to 45 foot-pound torque, or 43 or something. I forget what it is. The top's tight. The instruction says turn it to the hardest setting, and it will go from there. So I don't know if you can see that, but if you turn counterclockwise, it's soft. Clockwise, it's hard. So I turn it all the way to the right, and we'll adjust that later. So the top is in, and the bottom, I got a new bolt, and the bottom goes to the bottom of the strut right here. So I got the jack here, just to jack it up a little higher so they will line up, and this is gonna go for 45 foot-pound torque as well. Both sides of the bolts are in and torqued to specs. This is the right, and that's the left. So now I'm gonna go get an ink pen to mark the bolt. Okay, so this is a Sharpie, white. This is oil based, and I'm gonna mark the bolts and nuts. So in the future, if it moves, or if any of them moves, I would know. I marked it, and get focused. I marked it onto the bolt and the line on the surface that is mounted on. So that's the left side, that's the right side. The same thing up here. I don't know if you can see that on camera, the white line and the white part of the nut. Same on this side. That one I kind of messed up, and I did the same thing for the upper control arm here. Lined up the white surface and the marking on top, and I did that same thing on the other side as well. My left should be a minus 4.9 or so, and the right should be a plus 2.25. That's a mistake. It's a plus, not a minus. So these are the measurements while the car was jacked up in the air. Now everything is torqued down to specs. So now we're gonna focus on this guy, the ones I measured from a little while ago. So I took two measurements when the car was jacked up, so they're pretty much the same. Right now it's sitting at 4.7 negative, so I'm gonna spin this. Actually, I might be going the wrong way. I think it'll spin this way. So I'll keep spinning. So now I passed minus 5. I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. Focus. 4.8. All right, this is about right, about 4.9. So I'm gonna get a wrench and tighten this down, and we'll lock this in place. So this is not exactly set in stone yet, so this is the way it goes for now. And of course, I did not forget to tie the speed sensor line back in. So they gave me a new little nut here. All right, so now I'm getting the tire pump back up, but before we throw them on here. So I got the angles right. Back to the sheet where I had it before. The right side should be a positive 2.25. Like I said earlier, because my driveway is a little slanted, so I'm going by what I had that day before I took this stuff off. All right, so I just took the screw off the speed sensing line bracket here. That's because this whole thing here gets in the way for me to make adjustments on these locking nuts here on the Camber kit. So until I get my numbers final adjustments done, I'm gonna leave this like this for now. It's not going anywhere. And I'll put tapes over the threads. That's because I don't want sand, dirt, crap get into the threads and stuff, so they stay clean until it's done. I also did the same thing for the ride height. These are not tin foils. These are like premium industrial foil tape. They are very sturdy. So until my adjustments are done, I'm gonna leave them on. All right, the car is down. I torqued down all the lug nuts to specs. It does look a little lower, I guess. I was told by their technical guys that I need to drive this car for about a week to let that thing settle. All right, I'm gonna go clean up and get the trunk back together and then drive it. All right, just started this bad boy. Ah, shoot, I forgot my license plate. All right, got my license plate and let's go for a drive. So I marked the driveway with these 4 tape. So if I do have to go back and do more adjustments, the adjustments have to be done at these 4 spots because that's how they were measured from day one. All right, so now I'm just driving. A little bit aggressive, but not too crazy. I guess I'm looking for something, any sound when I go over bumps. Matter of fact, I'm looking for bumps, but I haven't found any so far. The alignment seems to be straight, although I'm not, you know, going 70 in a straight line on the highway. Yeah. There's a bump. I think it's hard turn. Okay, there are a few bumps up here on Commerce, so I'm gonna go right. There you go. There's a bump. No, it sounds okay. I'm gonna put the camera down because I can't really do this by myself, and I'm driving a stick. I'm at the Wawa parking lot, so the back does look a little bit lower, like an inch. It looks alright, not bad. So alright, let's get home. I'm gonna drive it for a week before I take measurements, let them settle down. Then we can do the front.